They don't know that there's 85 plus other hormones down the conceptin line, down the melanotan line, the role of the food related hormones like adiponectin and leptin,
Yeah.
glucagon, all these hormones that are dictating things behind the scenes. And the way we eat, the way we metabolize, the timing of our food. I have a couple presentations about something I call chrononutrikinetics, chrono being the Greek god of time,
Yeah.
nutrition kinetics, the effect of the food on the body, right? And how important it is to eat at a certain time and use what I call food timing to help optimize hormones, using macronutrient cycling to help optimize hormones, understanding that those food related hormones, of which cortisol is one of them,
Yeah.
is will dictate and override everything else you're doing. So just by ending carbs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and not eating before you go to bed, there's a powerful hormonal effect to that.
Welcome to MyMD Unscripted, where healthcare gets personal and the script gets tossed. I'm Dr. Clint Carter, ER doctor turned direct primary care freedom fighter, on a mission to challenge how our healthcare system treats patients in America. In every episode, my expert guests and I dive into real conversations about what's broken and how we can fix it by making healthcare about people, not just managing disease. It's time to rethink what healthcare should be and how we can make it better together. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, y'all, and welcome back to the MyMD Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Clint Carter, and today I am honored to be joined by Dr. Warren Willey. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of his story and just kind of the idea where health really comes from. But, you know, his story starts in a hospital bed as a kiddo and ends as a leader in holistic health, bodybuilding, and osteopathic medicine. So I cannot wait to get started on that. His journey challenges almost everything we think we know about how people actually get well. And so Dr. Warren, thanks for being on. And I guess I'll start with the question and let you just introduce yourself properly. But what happens when the kid on 14 medicines grows up and realizes none of those were actually fixing the problem? So, man, thanks for being on the show and tell us about how we got here.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate that. Well, yeah, it's so true. You know, there's something to movement and what crosses your lips that no one ever seemed to tell me when I went and visited the pulmonologist at National Jewish Asthma Center in Denver, Colorado. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, as a sickly little asthmatic. And yeah, what they do, drugs, and those drugs don't work, get more drugs. And then classic to our current nature, for every drug I was given that had a side effect, I was given a drug for. So yeah, 14 might be on the more conservative side,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And then, you know, back then, this is the 70s. I'm kind of dating myself there, but we don't use half those drugs at all anymore because we know their toxicity, their risks
Yeah.
way outweigh their benefits now.
Yeah.
So maybe part of the reason I'm a little up here, but yeah, I was a sickly kid, couldn't do much. My dad used to joke because it was windy in Boulder, Colorado, that he need to tie a kite string to my toe when I went outside to play because I didn't weigh too much. And long story short for you, my dad wanted me to, because I was so small, he bought some sand-filled weights.
Yeah, I
Little
remember
bar.
those.
Remember those?
Yeah, my dad had some.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he set up a little gym for me in our basement. And then for I think it was my 11th birthday, maybe 12th, but 11th birthday, he bought me a subscription to what's now called Muscle and Fitness, Joe Weider's publication. And back then, there was no ads in it. The only ads were actually for fitness equipment. There was no supplement ads, no anything else, right? And I would read the thing front page to back page, even the advertisements I was picking stuff up of, and started really lifting. And so for my 12th birthday, my 12th birthday, he got me a membership to a local gym called Newell's Gym. And I'd get on my bike and pedal down there after, of course, popping some albuterol so I could make it there, right? And for those who don't know, listening, albuterol is just a bronchodilator. It's what helps asthmatics, their
Yeah.
bronchi open up. Even though it doesn't treat nothing, it just opens up the bronchi. Asthma is a disease of inflammation, as you know. Guess where you get inflammation from? Not moving and eating crappy. So I joined this gym and I was started to get some help from some of the bigger guys in lifting and stuff. And well, at the same time, I took quite an interest in nutrition because something occurred to me. I realized that nights that I wasn't puffing on the albuterol all night or on my nebulizer, started to link up in my head with what my mom made for dinner. And so I really got into the nutritional side of stuff. Not so much for that, though I started to see it, but for I wanted some muscle. I wanted some weight on, right?
Yeah.
And I realized, and some of the bigger, older guys in the gym who were so kind to help me lift weights, they're like, you need to eat, man. You need to eat. You want to get big, you need to eat. So what do I eat? And then back there, the answer was, well, everything.
Yeah.
Just eat everything. You know, half these guys are on 4 or 5 different anabolic steroids, right? So they're like,
Yeah.
just eat everything. Well, I knew that was not right because, again, that connection I made with my mother's dinner. And I started reading everything I could on nutrition. And within the next couple of years, I was on just my albuterol inhaler. I got rid of
Nice.
all the processed, what we now call processed, ultra processed foods. I really realized that my body doesn't respond well to carbs. So I was on a low carb diet as a young teenager and really understood, man, this protein's really important. Fat's not that big a deal, but man, in my life, carbs triggered an asthma attack and it triggers an inflammatory response, I know now. And so then I started helping some of the bodybuilders in the gym with their diets. And it helped a couple guys who went in. One of them went on to win the Mr. USA
Oh, wow.
contest. And I was the guy who helped him with his eating plan. So I just went on that path. I've been a personal trainer all the way up through high school, college, grad school, and then I learned about the osteopathic medic program. And I was a pre-med major, as you were, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I think I was a junior, Clint, before anyone told me about the DOs. I heard about the MDs, of course, the
Yeah.
allopath, the chiropractor, but there was two I never heard of, the naturopath and the osteopath. And the naturopath fascinated me, but the osteopath, being Western trained, but taking into account the musculoskeletal system, that was a ding, 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 ding light bulb moment for me. I was like, okay, that's what I want to be. And there you go. And so my life has been personal training and personal training as a doctor.
Yeah, that's right. Training people personally as a doc.
Yep.
And so much of what medicine, or I guess the functional medicine side especially, has come around to is, movement and diet and sleep and stress. But, all the things, it's like, hey, what are you putting in your mouth and what are you doing with that body of yours? And so much of that had, when I was in medical school, I say this on this podcast from time to time. It's like when I was in medical school, lifestyle modification was a punchline, right? Like, well, yeah, I mean, people need to eat better and exercise more, but they're not going to do that. So here's the litany of pills that we have that can help them not die. And, never mind living, but for sure, medicine's pretty good at keeping you from dying, at least for a while.
Right.
But, and then, I guess most of my training, I felt like the osteopathic and the MD guys that got out looked pretty similar. Right. But I was more in the ER world, maybe a little in the family medicine world, because I did family medicine residency, went straight into the ER, and everybody just kind of did the same thing. They didn't, nobody had time to manipulate or dig into all that other stuff. But now that functional medicine's coming back around, I'm really seeing a sort of resurgence of the differences in an osteopathic training regimen, just the philosophy that comes with it, which has been really fun because it's right on, right?
Absolutely.
It's right on. So you went training, you went osteopathic, and then, sort of, along the way, you kind of figured out that, hey, the docs, when I was growing up, my experience was more medicine. I think, it sounds like you sort of figured out early that what you did and what you ate played a much bigger role in your wellness than any of the pills you ever got. And so, how did that influence? There's a chance that through that process, you just mistrust medicine altogether, right? Like, you're like, I don't want to be a doctor. They don't know what they're doing. Versus, you took a different path and let it inform your medicine. How did that change how you went about things?
Well, I had, as a personal trainer, even in high school and definitely through college, and being in the pre-med club, I spent some time with some local docs, the pre-med club set up so we can shadow and stuff. And I asked one doc, we were great family practitioner, still remember him to this day. And he was awesome with his patients, just knew his stuff, took his time, very wise taught me the physical touch, whether it's a tap on the knee or a handshake, how important that was to establish communication and a relationship. I mean, I learned that from him. And at the end of my rotation, or a couple days with me, I guess I'm so used to that verbiage, right, from residency and stuff.
Yeah.
But by following him, I asked him, hey, how come you never talk to these guys about what they eat or whether they're exercising? And he paused. And this guy, I had so much respect for it. He looked at me and goes, well, that doesn't work. And,
Yep.
and in my personal training experience, I had actually got some referrals from him and some other people to train these people, and I saw things get better and what their stories, how their stories changed, and how they felt so much better because I spent an hour with them teaching them how to use weights, and then gave them a modified eating plan that, again, it was a little biased at the time. I really made the carbs kind of low. And around the same time, the whole Atkins thing was getting bigger and people are starting to recognize that, wow. And it kind of started in the weight loss world that, oh, wow,
Yeah.
food is important, you know, and then this is maybe something we can touch on a little later, Dr. Carter, but it's calories to me don't matter that much as the hormonal effect of food. And especially after you're 40, it is just powerful. And a lot of the literature and data on calories in to calories out is based on younger people. And so even back then, as I'm writing these eating plans, I focused on calories. I did their body composition. I did Jackson and Pollock's 3-site skin caliber measurement there. So a man chest, abdomen, thigh, woman tricep, abdomen, thigh. And based on their lean mass number, I would calculate calories from that. And then I'd always start with, okay, this is how much protein you need for that time. And back then, you know, the research was very adamant. Kidney disease, don't eat high protein.
Yeah.
Protein's not good for you, right? And all this stuff. And our recommended from the RDA allowances was, I think it was 0.8 grams per kilogram. We're totally different, obviously. We're
Yeah, right.
even in kidney disease, if you have kidney disease, it may make more of an effect, but it doesn't cause kidney disease, right?
No. And even then, you just, you don't want to eat nothing but double the recommended protein allowance, but
absolutely,
your body needs protein, man. That's just how that works.
It does. And then again, a little tangent here. Sorry. I think we eat way too much protein. To follow up on what you just said, we don't need that much. There was a study, and forgive me, I cannot think of the author, but it was done in the 60s on boxers. These guys were training 8 hours a day, and they gave them 40 to 60 grams of protein a day, and they did not lose any lean mass.
Wow.
So I think we kind of overdo that. You need, 2 grams of protein per scale weight now, not just kilogram. Let's double it. Let's multiply it by 2.2. I've seen so many people coming with that. And as you know, there's a percentage of population that the carbs aren't causing insulin resistance. It's actually the protein via the GLUT4 receptor on the cell. And so you got to be real wise with that on what is the proper amount per client, at least in my view. And so now that I'm coming back from my little tangent there, writing people eating plans and helping them lift, I was seeing people improve. And I had my own experience by then. I was seeing it. And that's why I was excited. I was like, okay, I want to go to medical school or osteopathic school, and I want to learn about the diseases. I want to learn about the drugs. I want to know as much information as I can, so then I can apply how to eat and move to that. And that's just the way my practice has always been. I've always asked you first thing out of my mouth, besides after the introductions and handshake, is tell me about your diet. Tell me how much you move.
Yep.
And then we go from there.
Well, so many of, so I'm a direct primary care guy, which just means they pay me a membership. They get in an hour with me as often as they need.
Nice.
It's a fun way to practice. You get to know your people really well. And so we get into lifestyle, but, sometimes I get a little lazy and I'm just like, I start, leading the witness with, well, I mean, I know you pretty well. I mean, you don't eat blah, 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 and you don't drink blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, man, just let them talk. The answers are in letting them talk, because really they'll, I remember quite frankly, honestly, I just came back from counseling appointment. I go every month for my counselor, and it's great, but we don't have an agenda. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So I walked in there, but eventually I talked myself into a corner, right? Like, it's like, hey, okay. Sometimes I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, the way counseling works is maybe they ask a few questions and they direct you a little bit, but ultimately you keep talking until finally you're like, maybe I said that because I'm an a-hole. Okay. Well, that makes sense. It's like, I see how that could have been taken the other way. All right.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
let the patient tell you about, what eating healthy, because, we eat pretty healthy. It's mostly home cooked meals. We're active around the house. We do a lot of yard work. And you're like, okay, I'm going to need you to be more specific. Are are y'all home cooking some chicken fried steak and gravy? What are we working on here? So it's been it's been a fun experience with being able to spend time with patients. And when I first started this thing, I was an in the box, residency trained, family medicine, MD, and I ran into this wall. It's like, I just can't help a certain percentage of people. I figured time was the limiting factor. These 8-minute visits, that was the problem. And it was, except that the in the box, residency trained, toolbox that I had wasn't enough. And as it turns out that I wasn't trained on anything that insurance doesn't pay for. And so I wasn't taught. And so finally, my partner who got in this thing a little before me, he was like, well, when you're going to get into hormones? And I was like, when I'm not the weirdo for being the concierge doctor in our little town. And so finally I got into the hormone sector, and it really just, what the bioidentical hormone replacement door did for me was it opened up a room full of doors I didn't know existed, from functional medicine to more, I didn't know what healthy diet meant. I didn't really know what exercise meant. We weren't really taught those things because we were taught that people didn't change and that it wasn't going to work. And so,
Right.
So hormones have been an incredible part of my practice in getting people better. But tell me more about when you say eating for hormones, right? The diet affects your hormones. Tell us more about that, because I think that's kind of a new angle for a lot of our listeners who haven't heard that before.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So first, let me preface it with calories are very important. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I don't think there's an end all, especially the older you get. And I've kind of made a cutoff age more empirically than I did scientifically. The 35 to 40 is when calories are going to not have as much influence as that hormonal effect of food. And we see that especially look at the almost fanatical perimenopausal social media out there. Everyone's like, holy cow. And people like you and I are like, well, yeah, the hormones start to change. The OB-GYNs, and I love them. One of my best friends is an OB-GYN, but I always tease him like, you're a surgeon. You don't know anything about endocrinology.
Correct.
And he doesn't. He sends me all the hormone patients. But they state that the menopause average age of 51 in America is described by a clinical event, a lack of menstruation for 12 months.
Yeah.
Right. But if you really understand the way the body's working, hormones are in women and in particular are changing 15 years prior.
Yeah.
I've always questioned this, Clint, and maybe you can answer it for me. Why is a woman who's 34 years old in 8 months have a normal pregnancy, and a woman who's 35 years old in 3 months have a high risk pregnancy?
Right. Well, they had to draw the line somewhere. Insurance had to pay extra at some point.
There you go. Okay, that's the best answer I've ever had. Those insurance bastards did it. That's what it is.
They did.
Yes. But we see so much. I did a lecture a couple of years ago in Chicago, and the title of the lecture was The Role of Sex Hormones in Weight Management. And I think it's so important to understand that, yes, we start changing early, a lot earlier than we thought, and we're seeing more. I've been doing men's hormone replacement since the mid 90s, always looking over my shoulder for the DEA.
Yeah.
Another side note here is kind of funny. When I first moved to where I live now in Southeast Idaho, I was writing hormone prescriptions for men, including using Clomid as what I call TBT, testosterone boosting therapy.
I like it.
And I had the Board of Pharmacy and the Board of Medicine called on me by doctors who are now my patients. It's a true story, dude. True story. So understanding that, how the hormones are changing stuff, what does food do to that? And that's where when you say hormone to someone, the first inclination is sex hormones. Maybe the thyroid pops up in there, and then they end it. They don't know that there's 85 plus other hormones down the conceptin line, down the melanotan line, the role of the food-related hormones like adiponectin and leptin,
Yeah.
glucagon, all these hormones that are dictating things behind the scenes. And the way we eat, the way we metabolize, the timing of our food. I have a couple presentations about something I call chrononutrikinetics, chrono being the Greek god of time,
Yeah.
nutrition kinetics, the effect of the food on the body, right? And how important it is to eat at a certain time and use what I call food timing to help optimize hormones, using macronutrient cycling to help optimize hormones, understanding that those food related hormones, of which cortisol is one of them,
Yeah.
will dictate and override everything else you're doing. So just by ending carbs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and not eating before you go to bed, there's a powerful hormonal effect to that then translates into your overall health and whatnot. And it also makes those of us who provide hormones for people that much better at it
Yeah.
or better looking at it, because now we're taking into that account that those hormones aren't being in and out. I'm not just replacing a woman's estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and D. I'm actually helping their body metabolize it better and utilize it better based on food timing, based on simple little things like that can
Right.
make a huge difference. Huge difference.
I mean, as peptides have come around, just the whole, the Samorlin, tesamorelin group where they're boosting growth hormone, right? Well, it's kind of like, well, yeah, maybe if you do it right, because
If you do
timing
it
is
right.
everything, right?
Absolutely.
Like apparently growth hormone's only secreted in a fasting state and deep sleep. And so if you're having a little snack right before bed, you're not fasting. And then that also affects your sleep. And so you don't have, so it's like, why are these growth hormone secretagogues that help your body improve its own growth hormone within its own limits, of course. Why are they helping so many people? Because we just don't know what we're doing. We're just watching TV and snacking on popcorn right before bed. And then, we probably have sleep apnea or drank a little something with it so that our sleep sucked. And then next thing you know, our hormone is, our growth hormone sucks, then that falls into, it affects your sex hormones. It affects your cortisol levels. It's all so interconnected that that timing, that's when I was kind of like, this timing stuff really matters, because once again, I was probably taught something about growth hormone in medical school. I have no idea. I know that it's a thing because people take it, but the interconnected hormones in school suck so bad. Yeah. There's so many, they're all interconnected. There's endocrine, there's exocrine, it's just the wild freaking West, man. And which is why it's not an indictment to say that our OB-GYN colleagues are, they're the hormone experts in women, except that kind of nobody's the hormone experts in women or men.
Right.
Really? Like, because
absolutely
the endocrinologists, they don't know or care. Like they've got their niche, right? Like they're still writing Levo for everybody, for goodness sake. So, but the timing, the rhythm, and that's really, I mean, from your personal training background, way more than your medical school training, I would think. The timing and rhythm of eating and exercise, I only have ever thought of it in the world of, am I bulking or, really not me. I never did. My son, is he bulking or is he cutting? Right? Mm-hmm. That's what he eats and when he eats. So is it relatively universal for a perimenopausal female or a 40-something-year-old male on the rules, or is it pretty variable, pretty individualized?
I think it's very individualized. I think we all fall under this umbrella of human physiology, but then life experiences, there's so many variables that then play into that changes people. So I make it, in my practice, I'm blessed like you, I get to spend an hour, 2 hours with every patient I visit with. And that allows me to learn more and enough about them, about their history, about that stressful event that triggered their autoimmune disease that they never linked up together. Yeah. Those type of things give me the ability to make the eating more personal. And I have a full-time dietitian that works with me, and we're on the same wavelength. He's been with me 15 years. So if I'm looking in the person, talk to him about macronutrient timing, about where to add exercise in, what's the best for this, I make it per their ability to do it, because that's the one thing. They have to do it easy, if you will. And
Right.
so and they have to do it when they feel good. So in some cases, Clint, I might even just say, I just don't want you to eat before bed right now. And I
Yeah.
just want you to go for a 15-minute walk after dinner every night.
Yeah.
That's it. Because doing all the other things we do in functional medicine and even just trying to affect dopamine a little, make them feel better. Now they're going to be more apt and more aggressive in, okay, I need to do this. I need to eat this way. I need to do this resistance training now that he suggested. And that's another thing, another tangent here. I think that's way overdone too. 15 minutes resistance training 3 times a week will maintain most people's muscle mass if the hormones are right and the
Right.
protein's adequate.
Right. Right.
Right. And so they don't need to be a gym rat. They don't need to spend 3 hours a day in the gym as the fitness world tells them they need to.
Right.
Right. And so making them individualized for their disease states, their goals, their concerns, their presentation. And that's another thing in nutrition clinics. I mean, the father of Western medicine, Hippocrates, said all disease is deficiency. And oh my gosh, you run like a Genova Metabolomics Plus test. Everyone's deficient in something.
And
Everyone.
lots of things.
And lots of things. And by helping them, I try to always find dietary replacements over supplements. But we use supplements because
Yeah.
just as the word implies, it's a supplement to the diet. It's not
Right.
taking over. It's a supplement to the diet. Helping them with that and getting them feeling better. Now they're more involved in the movement. Now they're understanding and trying to learn about their eating. And man, those are the people that get better, no matter what they show up with.
And like you were saying with the protein too, if you're telling everybody, or if the internet's telling everybody they got to eat 4 pounds of protein for every pound of body weight, like kind of like trying to make too many changes too fast. Nobody can do that forever.
No,
It's just,
no.
you can only eat so much protein at a time, like,
Yeah.
it's just hard. So making all these changes one little bit at a time. I know, like for weight loss folks, right? Like one of my big things, and I think it's muscle being sort of the currency of longevity, it being such an important metabolic tissue for our wellness, how we feel now, how we're going to feel later, all that stuff. And it had been, I think medicine in general acquiesced to the idea that muscle was important. But it's this last, I don't know, to me, it feels like 5 years. It's probably been longer, but the muscle as an organ system that really matters for people has really taken off. And I've really enjoyed having that readily available data, that momentum for all my weight loss patients. Because everybody comes to me and they want to lose weight.
Right.
I'm like, I mean, yes, but you don't want to lose weight. You want to fix your body composition, right? Like you don't want to lose muscle. You want to lose fat. But,
Right.
If you've got a lot of weight to lose, then your challenge on top of losing weight is doing it without losing all your muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
I had this realization. I was giving a talk on weight loss and muscle and something else recently. And I was like, so every time everybody went through one of these fad diet cycles and they lost 40 pounds and they gained 40 pounds and they lost 50 pounds and they gained 60 pounds. Well, they lost 40 pounds. Some percent of that was muscle. And what they gained back was all fat. And then they lost 50 pounds and some percent of that was muscle. And what they gained back was all fat. And so now they've got like no basal metabolic rate. They've got no muscle to work with. They feel like crap. They're tired all the time. It's this sort of just such a negative momentum, it's sort of eating itself process. Whereas if we can just build muscle, and so that's why like body composition devices for have just become priceless in this day and age, because everybody thinks they want to lose weight, and it's like, yes, and your scale doesn't know the difference between water, fat, muscle, you taking a big dump. It just doesn't know the difference. So we got to get you there, which has been really fun. And like you said, the personalization of it all, is like, now, okay, I want you to just like, I need you to go for that walk. I need you to do movement first, and then we'll start chipping away at it with, some, GLP-1s and some other things. Once we kind of get this piece going, kind of like the guys who come to me that want peptides and the rest of their health is just on fire. It's like, yeah, you're not ready for peptides, buddy. That's the sprinkles on top of the icing on top of the cake, right?
Yes.
but it's on a podcast. It's cool.
Right.
Well, okay. So
this celebrity did this. So
that's
now I
right.
must. How'd that person become an expert in this?
Oh, well, they're a celebrity. They're rich. They must be right.
Absolutely. I totally forgot. You're right.
Yeah, totally. They've got fitness coaches, so they must be doing it right. Well, that brings me up to another question. Like in the fitness bodybuilding industry too, there's a lot of people that are really unhealthy, doing this bodybuilding bit, right? Like, they'll do anything to get a little more muscle and a little less fat. You already mentioned sort of like all the anabolic steroid, things that are going on. What else? I mean, where, for our listeners, where is kind of the sweet spot between what the health and fitness industry is, not industry, but, folks at the gym giving each other advice, where they're getting it right and where they're getting it wrong, and how you as is sort of a good bridge between both realities, how you use that to bridge with your patients.
So separate the bro science from the real science is what we're talking about. Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I still work with a number of bodybuilders, both on the IFBB professional side, all the way down to the amateur trying to do her first physique show at 45.
Yeah.
And it can be the most unhealthy thing you have ever done. As a matter of fact, see that book right there, Obtainable? That is about that.
Really?
That is a full book about people who are under recovered, overtraining, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Taking drugs, not following measures of health while they're doing this, going for such a lean look that it's terrible.
Yeah.
And then, there are steroids and even peptides used inappropriately and SARMs and SERMs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things out there that are readily available to people without prescriptions or without running them by me or you, that it is actually a very unhealthy thing unless you do have someone like you or me in their corner to help them. And I think that just starts with consistent measurements. Let's do an in-body scan on you every week while you're starting this diet. Let's not do the 800 calorie eating plan, right? Let's make it realistic. Make sure your hormones are balanced. And because, as you know, it's what happens to these people, and the reason they become so dependent on the drugs and stuff is when you diet, your survival hormone cortisol has a tantrum. Right. It has a terrible tantrum. And this is an analogy I use with my patients, Clint. If let's pretend you and me and your loved one and my wife, we're a tribe, and we live here in where I live in Southeast Idaho. And that equates to being freaking cold in January. We're a tribe, and we had a terrible hunting and gathering season. This is 1,000 years ago. And there's no food. So what happens? We're stressed. There's no food. And back then, the only reason to be stressed was the fear of not eating, or possibly the fear of being eaten, maybe.
Yeah.
Saber-tooth tiger stuff, right? And cortisol will shut off the hormones, because what's the last thing you do when you're not eating? You don't bring more mouths into the world to feed.
Procreating is a bad idea.
Bad idea. It increases reverse T3. So I don't care what your thyroid labs look like. If your RT3 is elevated, your thyroid ain't working. Why? Because cortisol is trying to slow you down to spare calories.
Yeah.
And so these people, and that's just a couple examples of many hormones that go nuts with this intense low calorie dieting. And I'm afraid bodybuilder, physique artist, not, but just a non-educated GLP-1 user gets this into the same vicious cycle.
Correct.
And they wreck themselves. And then they come seek you out and say, Dr. Carter, you need to fix me. I feel terrible. And you do their in-body, and they're 5'10", and their lean mass is 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And they should be 120 pounds, right? So I think it's in that world, helping people that are doing it understand the ramifications of what they're doing, and then show them you can do it a better way and a safer way.
Yeah.
But you have to apply these principles. And that's where the personalization comes in.
Well, like you said, these weight loss folks, like, I love the GLP group of meds, because until now, if there was a medication to help with weight loss, it was definitely bad for you. right? Like it, maybe you were trading the health of weight loss for, and maybe it was a net positive in the end if you lost enough weight and didn't do enough damage and your heart was young enough to take it and all the other stuff. But now it's like there's medicines that work that are like better for your heart, then the weight loss makes sense that they should be and all the different things. But it's so addicting to be able to lose weight when you've spent your whole life not being able to lose weight. There's just so many between genetics and lifestyle and the food that we've been fed all this time and all of that. It's just been a genetic, physiologic, hormonal lifestyle disaster. And this, you get these cycles of weight loss and muscle loss and weight gain. But now that there's something that's, it's like, I feel like I'm having to make interventions with my patients. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to lose any more weight. Like, well, can I keep my prescription for maintenance? Well, yes, if you'll use it sparingly at low dose for maintenance to shut the food noise off every once in a while. But if you're really, because then they'll come in and they'll let it slip. Oh, I just need to lose a few more pounds. My weight's going to be 146. And I'm like, you've got nothing to lose but muscle at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this medicine is not going to make that loose skin go away. Like,
Right.
if you want that gone, go talk to our surgeon friends. They can do that. I don't want a surgery. Then stop it. It's just so addictive. The scale, their home scale and chasing this weight and feeling they can lose. And then they come in and you're like, I can't have you telling people that I'm your doctor if you lose another pound. You're just a walking bad advertisement for me. Everyone thinks you have cancer now. Stop it.
Yep.
And so, and the addictive nature in a bodybuilding world too, like, there's a little bit, you have to be sort of obsessive about your body in order to do it well, but you can be obsessive and healthy about how you do it.
Absolutely.
But in the end, if you don't have that, you're just going to, you do it whatever way works because, you have to get there. You have to have it. It's your dopamine hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really, what I'm finding is it's being really, I'm to the point in my, our patients are healthy. They're losing weight the right way. We're watching their muscle, all of that. But you've got some folks that just, I hate to be the jerk, but I'm going to have to be the adult in the room and be like, no more.
Yeah. Totally.
And I hate that. I just really want them, I have some in my fridge. I'm not losing weight, but the other day I took a half dose because I was in there looking for carbs at 10 o'clock at night. I just, I was like, I think I'm just going to shut that food noise off. I'll be good for a month,
Yeah. Good.
But
I'm the same way, Doc. I will not, and I don't think I have ever written a prescription for a GLP-1 without a GHRP or a GHRH at the very least, and then to make sure their androgens are appropriate, make sure they're doing some sort of resistance training. I am, as if I can quote the word you used earlier in our discussion, an a-hole.
Yeah.
Because same thing. You are either doing it this way or you're doing it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I care about your health. And I understand you. I care about how you care about how you look. But I'm here to make sure you are healthy. And you have to do this with it. You've got to maintain that muscle mass. And this is the way to do it. And I've had great luck with that, both scientifically and empirically. Just people, if you're doing and so your listeners know a GHRP is a growth hormone releasing peptide, and a GHRH is a growth hormone releasing hexapeptide, like Samorelin we mentioned earlier, or CJC 1259 with ipamorelin or tesamorelin or any of those. But that ipamorelin is actually a GHRP. But those medications, those peptides, increasing growth hormone, affects the body on every level you can think of. It truly is the anti-aging hormone, the way it affects the mitochondria and the electric transport chain. And it is just essential for, in my opinion, for our type of medicine, for the goals we have for our patients have for themselves. Knowing you can't just do one thing. I can't just, like I remember preceptors and fellows I've worked with in the past, they were phentermine distribution centers.
Yeah.
Right. Well, all my patients lose weight. Well, have you checked their heart and did you check what they're actually losing?
Right.
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 And so I'm with you. The GRPs are a wonderful thing, and we've known for years. I mean, what does gastric surgery do? It increases GLP-1. That's what gastric bypass surgery does.
Really?
Yeah, yep. That is the number one hormone, a response to a gastric surgery or a weight loss surgery.
No
And
way.
this, yeah, GLP-1. And what's interesting, I think it was 2011, the American Board of Bariatric Medicine changed their name to the American Board of Bariatric and Metabolic Medicine.
Boom. Yes.
Exactly. That our fine surgical friends finally realized,
Yeah.
yeah, my surgery helped, but changing someone's anatomy wasn't the secret. It was the hormonal response to it
Yep.
that did the work.
Well, and they got rid of 80% of the insulin resistance in the body is now in that bin over there. Get rid of all that adipose tissue while you're doing some of, if you do that while you do it. And it's funny how just, you can do bariatric surgery and someone's suddenly not diabetic anymore. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, but like we said, people don't understand. It's kind of, this is where I love that we're in the information age, but there's just so much information to weed through and not all of it's right. But people are looking for results,
Right.
and they're not necessarily about the process if they don't have to be. And so that's kind of where we come in, because there's, what are some of the main shortcuts that you find you keep having to sort of cut off at the pass as people are, they're looking for health, but to them, either weight loss or this extreme or that extreme equals health. What are some of the shortcuts you have to dodge all the time?
I would say the need to try to overexercise your fat or undereat your fat, which again just doesn't work, especially as you get older, are a big problem. I think it's classic alcoholic mentality. If some is good, more is better.
Yeah.
Right. So I've had people come in who were their doctor wrote their daughter a GLP-1, their husband a GLP-1, and she had a GLP-1 and she was taking all of theirs. I'm like, wow, come on. Or they'll same thing with the thyroid. I want to take thyroid hormone because it'll help me lose weight. Well, it's kind of a wives' tale, and then they suppress their own thyroid. Then they get into osteoporotic issues, and I mean the list just goes on and on of the classic American culture. One, I want it now, and two, I want more of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where I see the biggest hang up. So instructing people that, 3 times a week in the gym for half an hour, 40 minutes is going to do you more than if you're in there 2 hours a day for 7 days a week. That's a hard thing to get through people's heads.
It's a hard sell. You're up. That is
sell.
Not sexy, bro. You are up against
exactly.
fast, easy, and cheap. That you're up against all those things. You got to pay a membership and or have your own supplies, make yourself go, maybe figure out what you should do when you get there. Look at all those people that obviously know what they're doing and you don't know what you're doing. That's so intimidating. That's a hard sell, man.
It is. It's a hard sell, and probably that just right now off the top of my head, the biggest stumbling block with them. We've just been taught wrong.
And it's been, the gym has been its own world. That's where the gym guys are, and it hasn't been for the last decade or two, really. I mean, but that's still like for a lot of my patients haven't been to a gym in a long time. I'm like, listen, you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to go to a gym.
Right.
You go get you a rubber band and tie it to your doorknob. Go get something, but you have to do some resistance training. There's some certain amount of body weight things that you can do safely. There's, there's classes for that, but you've got to do some resistance training. And the gym's not full of meatheads all the time. There's plenty of regular people having Zumba classes together. I don't know. Just go check it out, man.
Yeah.
But it's a that I would agree. I mean, that's, and so I was going to ask you, and maybe this is it, but if someone that's listening feels stuck, right? Like they just don't know. There's so much information out there. They want to lose weight, but now they're scared they're going to lose muscle. You need to eat protein, but not too much, but definitely enough. And, so what should the next step be for someone that's listening right now that's just intimidated with what's right?
I would say seek you out.
Yeah.
Seek you out, or another functional medicine physician who has some idea of this. Get your body comp measured, check hormones, check inflammatory markers, check your liver health, do a gut health test, do a nutrition assessment, and get some help with it. Because again, if Dr. Carter can balance your hormones and stuff, make you feel better, it's going to be easier. And that I think is the key. And that's where something I admit to messing up for 20 years of my 30 plus year practice life is I pushed so hard on the diet and exercise, but if they weren't feeling well, they just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I really try to make people feel better first. And that's where hormone replacement comes at the top of the list, because people really do feel better. And there's so many xenoestrogens out there. I mean, I've been doing male hormone replacement for 30 years, and the guys are getting younger and younger and younger. These 25-year-olds are coming in with T levels of 120.
It's terrible.
Right? It's terrible. But I never start those people on TRT. I start them on TBT, testosterone boosting therapy. Let's change your diet. Let's get you moving. Here's some supplements that'll help lower sex hormone binding globulin, which will increase your free T. Let's get you going first. But it's been amazing to me how my age bracket has gone, and male hormone replacement has gone from the 60s down a decade, maybe 2 decades down every decade I practiced. And it's just because the general unhealthiness of our country and the health experts out there that are telling the latest, greatest fad. I mean, I'm waiting for the HCG diet to come back, Clint.
Yeah.
I mean, do a GLP-1 with HCG.
Pregnant, so let's do it.
Right.
You can starve yourself and you just don't care, right? HCG diet. Well, okay, man. Thank you so much for coming on. If folks want to follow you, reach out, I mean, is your reach greater than your area in?
Yeah, we're kind of a destination spot because there's so much to do. I'm about 2 hours from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Sun Valley's 3 hours away. Yellowstone National Park's 2 hours away. So I have a large clientele that flies in to see me. And probably the best way to do it would be go to one of my websites, tmc-idaho.com. TMC stands for the Metabolic Clinic. tmc-idaho.com. Probably the best way if you're interested in learning more. Happy to do it. I love meeting new people. So I would be honored to help your listeners, my friend. I thank you so much for that endorsement.
Dude, absolutely. Like, I mean, you don't have to have been listening to this show for the last 50 minutes to understand that you know more than I do about a lot of this stuff. So absolutely. Thanks for coming on. That was great. You've made me a better doctor. Hopefully a lot of our listeners got a lot out of it. And we really look forward to, what you're doing and sort of, how about, I'm excited about the fact that a lot of medicine is finally catching up to, to where you are and where you've been and how you do it. And thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, Doc. It's been a real honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today on MyMD Unscripted. I hope today's conversation opened your mind and inspired you to imagine a better path for your health and therefore life. If you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone passionate about transforming healthcare. Real change starts with real conversations, so let's keep them going. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and never stop pushing for better.